Hello folks, this is Tom from anti-proton.com. A little over a week ago, I started a little thing where I would test and see what my dose was. I wore a dosimeter. Here's a dosimeter. Let me pull it out. This is the dosimeter. It's a Polimaster 1703 MO1B. Anyway, here's the Polimaster. And I wore this for 7 straight days. And the point of this was to figure out what my dose was at the very end of that period of time. I took this in the shower. I took this to bed. It was never more than a foot or two from my body for the entire time. Why? To come up with a reasonable idea. This is only gamma sensitive, and X-ray sensitive. I mean, it picks up gammas and X-rays. So I'm not calculating alpha, not calculating beta, and externally those present very little of an issue. Those are a big problem when they get inside of you. And as you'll see when I explain in a few minutes here, I didn't calculate any internal dosage, like breathing in radon gas, for example, or eating a banana with potassium in it. That sort of stuff I didn't calculate because this thing can't calculate that. That requires a lot more finesse. It requires probably having a health physics degree, which I do not have. So wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, but this little guy was useful, and I'm going to show you the actual charts with the actual times and dates as they go on and on for 7 straight days. And I did actually bump into a powerful radioactive source during that period of time. During one day, I walked into a store, and the guy behind the counter was watching me. I was walking around looking at stuff, and he saw I was holding this in my hand to see if I picked up anything. Keeping in mind it was right beside me, so if I went near anything radioactive, I would see it. And he asked me, I told him what it was, and I came over, and he just kind of like showed me his watch, right? Well, guess what? The watch contained promethium-147. And I got a nice dose of it too. It blasts the chart right off the walls. But that's okay though, because I still figured it all out. Okay, I'm going to look up here. I've got some numbers above here. For 7 straight days to the minute, my dose was 14.52, 14.52 microsieverts. Now, this thing is calculating microsieverts based on energy. It's not a calibrated against a cesium-137 sort of thing. This is actually calibrating, this is actually taking the photon energy as it comes in and calculating the dose from it. It's a cesium iodide thallium doped gamma spectroscopic dosimeter, so it can do that, as opposed to something like a Geiger counter, which cannot do that. This can give you a roundabout idea, but it cannot tell you exactly. Not like that guy. Although this isn't really exact either. There's a plus or minus on this. I would say as high as 20%. But what can you do? The equipment required to get it exact is very expensive. Well, this wasn't cheap either, but you know, whatever. So anyway, just to give you some ideas, 14.52 microsieverts is equal to 2.07 per day. So about 2 microsieverts a day. That's not the end of the world. I thought it was going to be higher. I have radioactive check sources. I live in this place that has the brick in the outside, and the brick is hot like you wouldn't believe. I can detect uranium in the brick. There's all various things, rainstorm and radon coming up and everything. I figured it would be higher than that, but it wasn't. Let's see though. That comes out to it comes out to 8.61 of a microsievert per hour, 0.086 microsieverts per hour. And that comes out to 757.11 microsieverts per year. So if you want to look at that in millirems, that's 0.75 millirem. Okay, but that seems low. Because I went to a bunch of places, EPA and a couple other places, and they cited estimations for where I live of 3,580 microsieverts per year and 3,055.5 microsieverts per year. So why is mine so far off? Well, looking at the pie chart that they have, which shows the percentage of things like this much is medical, and this much is from radon, and this much is from whatever. And I noticed that 55% was from radon. Well, this thing isn't going to detect very much radon. It'll detect a little bit, but not much. Most of the dose that I'm getting from radon is breathed in as alpha. That's why it's so freaking dangerous. That's why 20-something thousand or whatever it is people per year get cancer from radon, according to the official figures. I mean, it's a lot of people. It's worse from smoking, I think, but still, it's not bad. It's that's the reason we all put the little monitors in our basements and do all that stuff to keep the radon out, because it's all over the place. Terrible stuff. But that's 55%. Another 15% comes from medical. And this very week, one day after I got done with this, I got exposed to somebody who walked by me with a medical isotope, medical tracer. I mean, they didn't say anything, but I mean, this picked it up. So the point of the matter is, if you take the 55% that, according to the EPA, and you take the 15% for medical, according to the EPA, that comes out to 70%. That's 70% of the dose I probably wasn't picking up. So I thought to myself, what if I take 757.11 microsieverts per year, divide it by 0.3, that scales it up, right? What does it come out to? If I were to just kind of assume those other numbers in there, what does it come out to? Well, if everything were equal, and now this is speculative. I'm just guessing at this point, but it would come out to 2,523.7 microsieverts. That's a lot closer. But anyhow, so as you can see, actually figuring out exactly what your dose is actually quite complicated, and so much more math and analysis would have to go into this. If you wanted to get it exactly right, you'd want to pee in a cup and have them test it pretty much. You'd have to do all this stuff. Because it's in your food, it's in your water, it's in your air. It's not just exposing you from external. But I can safely say that my external exposure to photon radiation is approximately 757 microsieverts per year. That I can say. Okay, so let me show you the data, because I've already blabbed for too long, and tell me what you think. All right, so here we go. Just to show you, I've collected the data. See the data? Data. Look at all that crazy data. Every few minutes this took a read. And I made them into a nice chart right here for you to look at. I'll see if I can post the data online so you can just look at it raw too, because some people like to just look at raw data. But as you can see, you kind of figure that my dose in microsieverts with respect to time would just kind of go up, right? Because that makes sense. It does. It has a few ups and downs now and then, some little waves. Right around here is actually where I bumped into that watch. And I still think that that watch that I bumped into might have affected everything just a little bit, but not much. Not much, just a little bit. Because it kind of was going up and then it kind of like leveled off a little bit and kept going. But anyway, there's my dose. As you can see, my dose went up to a little over 14 microsieverts total. So pretty stable. But then again, that's the way the dose is. Even if my microsieverts per hour rate were to shoot up really high, but I was only exposed to that rate for a few seconds, then the dose itself wouldn't be affected very much. Make sense? Okay, so let's look now at dose rates. As you can see, I've collected all the stuff. Now let me show you. I have two graphs here, and I want you to understand why. Here's the data on the side. All right, when I take the entire thing into account, here it is. You have dose rate in microsieverts per hour, and that's from 0 to 6 microsieverts per hour is the dose. And then you have time for the whole 7 days, going from first day all the way to 7. But see this one time, that's when I bumped into that watch. Look what it did. It's so freaking huge that it actually makes all the rest of this go down really low because of the scaling. That annoyed me because I wanted to show you the details. So in the one below, I removed this gigantic center one. Now, removing a piece of data, I don't like doing that because obviously you don't want to remove data. That's why I put both of them in there so you can see this is what the actual data looks like. But this one dose, let me find it. It's down here someplace. There it is. See it right there? 5.36 microsieverts per hour right there. All I did was delete that one dose. And then I did it again, and as you can see, here's what I come out with. And actually, ironically, the next couple minutes of dose show up right here. It's still kind of high. That's where the watch is. But if you ignore this and look at the rest of this, this is what my normal day looks like. And you might notice something sort of interesting here. The trend on this is kind of odd. Let me expand this far over and see if we can get in any closer here and figure out what we're looking at. It looks like 6 p.m., 10 p.m. My dose goes up when I get home. My dose goes back down again when I leave. my dose shoots up to 0.8 microsieverts per hour. And then when I'm away from my house, it goes back down. So my highest dose rating is when I'm at home. Like at night. Let's see, that's in the 4th and the 5th night. Let me just check what the 4th and the 5th were. That was a Thursday and Friday. Yeah, so basically put, when I'm at home, I'm getting a higher dose. Except this day right here. But that was the 9th. And the 9th was, I think I stayed in a different room in my house for most of the time this day. So yeah, it looks like I'm at a higher dose rate when I'm at home. And there's a couple reasons for that. I do have some radioactive check sources, very, very small ones. I only have a couple of them. They're perfectly normal to have with nuclear physics, but they could be adding to it. Second off, I know that my bed, for whatever reason, has a higher rate. I can get a 0.08, 0.09 microsieverts per hour off my bed. And it's, when I've done gamma spectroscopy of the bed, it turns out that there's potassium in the bed, probably from human sweat. I would assume that most beds, this is my assumption by the way, that means I haven't actually based it on any fact per se, but I would bet you most beds have that same effect. And it'd be interesting for somebody else to test their bed and let me know. But so basically at home, not at home, at home, not at home, at home, not at home. And as you can see, I came home, I was watching my computer, playing video games, whatever it is I do, went to bed, and then I woke up on the weekend, went out, got zapped by the watch, journeyed around in downtown where I live, and there's a lot of brick down there. That probably explains that. I got home, and I didn't get it too bad until I went to bed. In fact, a lot of this has to do with going to bed. So it's tough to say. But anyway, what it boils down to is we know that my bed is more radioactive than most of the rest of my house. We know that the brick walls are radioactive, and we know I have some check sources. But it looks like my highest dose rate is at home, and my highest dose rate when I'm at home is when I'm sleeping in my bed. So there you go. Now for alarms. This device is incredibly sensitive, so let's look at alarms. It goes bananas on alarms. Let's see, the 7th. Okay, yeah, this is when I went near the watch. Obviously, it went bananas. But you see it goes off quite often. That looks like a cat. See at the ears? Cat? Okay, yeah, that's not really very scientific, is it? But as you can see down here, I have a lot of alarms. Most of these alarms are not for very much. But I noticed they go throughout the entire day, actually. The machine goes off all the time. Let's see if any of them are particularly amazing. This guy right here at 7:49 p.m., that would probably be walking past my brick wall. That would probably be walking past my brick wall. That's the watch. Another really big one. I don't know what that is. But so there you go. As you can see, I'm not really exposed to that much. Even my highest figures are very, very low. But I suspect greatly that this is only about 20 to 30% of my actual dose. The rest of it being internal exposure as a result of food, air, water, blah, 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 the natural potassium in my own body, that sort of thing. So what can we conclude out of this? Well, I lead a mundane lifestyle. But I also can conclude that my bed is mildly radioactive. So anyhow, this has been Tom from anti-proton.com, and fun, fun, fun.